Have you got a load of old magazines and papers lying around that you've kept for some unknown reason, yet you just can't bring yourself to throw them away because they're pretty? And have you got some boring old cupboard doors that could do with a bit of sprucing up? Well then, this is the video for you! You do not need the above listed requirements in order to enjoy this video. You are permitted to watch regardless. Hello and welcome to another Dana Does video, which does not feature 50% of Dana. Danny was not involved in this, and it was a project me and my mum took on ourselves over the course of many months. So this started in July of 2020, and this is what the top floor landing looked like before we changed everything. Improved everything. As you can see, nothing really wrong with this area of the house, it's just a bit tame, and we wanted a challenge for ourselves while we were stuck indoors. This is by no means a tutorial, it's just a record of what we did and what we probably should have done instead. Anywho, we begin with taking off these decorative frame things on the doors, whatever they're called. We didn't like them. So we coated this dangerous yet very satisfying substance, paint stripper, around the edges just to lift up the frame things a bit so they'd be easier to pull off when they weren't painted to the door anymore. I really thought I was doing well with this shot. I need a camera person. I'm obsessed with the way paint stripper makes the paint bubble up and look cool like that. I love it. As you can probably tell from the look on my face, scraping the paint off like this didn't really help, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Brute force was the way in the end, just not with this plaster scraper thingy, but with a hammer and crowbar. It soon became very evident that they were stuck on with lots of sharp nails, and they splintered enormously. Eventually, they all came off, but it wasn't pretty. We debated stripping back the paint on the whole door to make it smoother, but we settled on filling the gaps and sanding. Oh yeah, and last minute I added a messy signature on the doors. It is quite difficult to write with paint stripper, unsurprisingly, and it looks like a child did it, but the sentiment is there. At least when the next owners of this house decide to rip up the doors, they'll be extra impressed that a 5-year-old did it. And now the fun part begins! Our idea was to tape markings of the size of the doors on the floor just to make a rough plan of how it would look, and we'd stick it on when we were happy, using a photo as a guide. It probably wasn't the smartest idea using the floor directly in front of the doors that we were sticking everything onto. It became very cramped and very messy very quickly, but at least we didn't have to go far anywhere. If you are a hoarder like me and my mum with a penchant for vintage, then you'll probably have a lot of this stuff. Worthless but gorgeous. We've got sheet music covers, kids' annuals, old art books, postcards, magazines, sewing patterns, playing cards, record sleeves, even old wrapping paper. These doors are covered in everything. Some of these papers were photocopied, some of these were cut out directly from books or whatever, depending on what it was and how much worth it had. Pros and cons of both, which I'll explain at the end. On the first door we used a mixture of diluted and undiluted PVA glue, or Elmer's school glue if you only speak American. This didn't work amazingly, so from the second door onwards we used wallpaper paste on most things, but still dipped back into the PVA for thinner pieces of paper. You can see some double-sided tape on the floor there too, but I cannot remember for the life of me what we used it for, if we even did. Occasionally, the bits covered in wallpaper paste curled up at the corners for some reason. For the most part, as it settled, it sorted itself out and dried flat, but the more stubborn pieces needed a bit more persuasion. A bad decision we made was using some really thick pieces, thick with 2 C's, which meant having to go back afterwards with some stronger glue.
Gonna need something over it.
They say you must go to Dixieland if you want to hear a real jazz band, but I approve that's wrong if you listen a minute. Mr. Conductor, there's a dear. If you don't mind, I'd like to hear your trombone. Now your own cornet, your cello tone. Now your clarinet, your violin. Just once again. Oh, you drummer, oh, you drummer, drum. Come on, bassoon. Oboe, play a tune. Now, Mr. Flute, on your rooty-tooty-toot. I want to hear them all together. Believe me, you've got a jazz band here. Now the way they make this music moan, it's enough to make you leave your
There is one final thing we did, and there is a reason you haven't seen it. We varnished the doors. A whole pot of varnish and it made no difference whatsoever. It's not particularly glossy or looking well finished, and pieces are still peeling up. I mean, I shouldn't have even bothered bringing that up.
Oh, I'm glad this is over.
We had now more or less completed the 4 doors we set out to do, but during this process we couldn't help noticing this boring white door directly next to it. So we gave ourselves more to do because it was really fun. Initially the idea was just to cover the inner panels, or whatever they're called, of the door as a nod to the main doors, which is why I spent so long painting it. It may have looked white on your screen, but I can confirm in reality it was beige at best. After a couple of hours painstakingly painting your beige no more door, it's necessary to change your mind completely about your interior design choices and cover up the whole thing anyway. Take a good look at that brilliant white door because you'll never see it again. Now this final door was by far the trickiest. We got by using mostly photocopied paper that was thin and easy to mould around the details, so we searched through our supplies, mainly books, one of our favourites being an Elvis album, and photocopied hundreds of photos from there. But we did remember to go back and stick some Elvises on the original 4 doors so the airing cupboard didn't look like a shrine to the King of Rock. We then kept adding smaller and smaller bits to all 5 doors until we drove ourselves crazy. We did a lot of staring too. Knobs! Nothing wrong with the old silver knobs, we just wanted something a bit more fancy, something new that would fit more with a vintage feel.
I must have been a dreaming, as sung by little Silas Leesburg.
And then we decided to add some more work to the to-do list. We turned around and looked at the other 3 doors on this floor. They were boring. An unwelcome contrast to the collaged carnage we spent so long on. So we painted them and got some new doorknobs for them. However, we did make a fatal error. We bought 3 sets of knobs for the doors we painted, replacing the old, ugly silver handles, but we forgot there was one more door on that landing that needed new handles too. We spent so long decorating and redecorating that airing cupboard door, and then we just forgot about it. So if you can just do us a favour and not look at the door handle or talk about the door handle, then we will really appreciate it.
Oh, that is pleasing.
Oh, it's not very good though.
Hey, but you can't see on camera.
Oh, that is bad. Oh. And now, if we spin round and have a look at what's facing all these doors, you'll see an off-white staircase with an ugly, pointless picture rail going all the way round. So we paid someone to remove the rail and repaint everything white because there was no way we were going to risk our lives by getting on a ladder and decorating on those stairs. We got some more frames and some picture ledgers from IKEA. We put the huge film poster back up where it was before because it doesn't fit anywhere else in the house. On an afternoon stroll through IKEA one miserable day, we happened to come across this glass lampshade and light bulb that we really liked. Did they have either in stock? Of course not, so we went back and ordered it online. Was it easy to install? Well, it would have been if you paid any attention to the light fitting. But this gave us a chance to go all out and order a nicer light fitting, as well as an excuse to get a fancy expensive light switch to match. We assigned the task of changing the light fitting to resident taker of care Danny, who failed miserably. Annoyingly, he didn't train as an electrician, so he didn't know what he was looking at. We had to hire a professional. This took what felt like decades. The longest portion of this project was definitely waiting for other people.
Because I saw my doctor today, and he tells me I must go away for a little while. He just gave me a frown, said you have to leave town, for your nerves are run down. No fear, I'm not going to die, I just dropped in to say goodbye. So goodbye to the lights and the glorious nights, it's the price I am paying for my cabareting, and the old doctor tells me my liver is queer. I must rest for a year. I have nervous prostration from that hesitation, but I don't regret it. The bankroll, I'll bet that if I'm in good condition a year from today, why, I'll do it all over again. I've turned night into day. I have seen every play, been in every cafe, and everything just seems to be right. So my life has been one big Arabian night. You see, no more tangos for me, no more 4 o'clock tea, me for over the sea, where I can eat with my knife. Oh, it's me for the simple life. So goodbye to the lights and the girlies in tights. Every table d'eau dinner just makes me grow thinner, and the old doctor tells me I'm all out of gear. I can't even have beer. No more raising the dickens with pretty young chickens, but I'm not complaining, I'm just going and training. If I'm not with the angels a year from today, why, I'll do it all over again.
And now we welcome you to the reflective section of this video, because we learnt a lot of things along the way. As I mentioned before, we do slightly regret using some of the thicker card because it means it's not as smooth as it could be, and it took a lot of effort to get stuck down in the first place. In comparison, the ink on the pages we copied had a habit of spreading when we brushed the glue over them, so there is some colour leakage and blotchiness about, but maybe it makes things look a bit more vintage. Some of the pages are nowhere near the right colour because the ink often ran out, however in some cases they turned out quite nice. Speaking of ink, we got through a lot of it. It's around £150 of ink, which, looking at it like this, really doesn't go as far as I thought. We didn't really think about how wobbly snipping meant that edges don't always line up properly, so we probably should have used a ruler, because neither of us are one of those talented individuals who can cut in a perfect straight line. Use a knife, kids. Something we realised when we started is that the cupboard doors don't actually line up properly when they're closed. They don't sit flush in the middle and they're not exactly level. We didn't notice when they were blue all over, but it's quite annoying when you can see a sliver of navy cutting through the artwork. Also, we didn't really think about this either, but the constant opening and closing of the doors made some of the edge pieces peel up a bit, made worse because of the wonky doors. We ended up sticking it down more with a strip of clear tape around the corner, and then some bits of decorative washi tape. I'll remind you that we started this process last July, and it's now May. We finally got an electrician round to install the light fitting and switch, which was very dusty, so all we had to do is fill in his hole and give that bit of wall a lick of paint. That's more or less it from me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we're still enjoying these doors. Please like this video and subscribe if you want to see more of us doing stuff like this, because it is really fun. Have a wonderful day, and I hope this has inspired you to start hoarding. Cheerio!
Prohibition drives me insane. I'm so stressy, soon I'll die. I simply grind, evaporate, I just that dry. I wouldn't mind to live forever in a strange